Story recapped here. Today I'm going to explain a horror and comedy film called Scary Movie 3. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. One rainy night, Katie and Becca have a sleepover where Becca mentions the curse tape spreading around and that anyone who watches it will receive a phone call that says they'll die in 7 days. Katie immediately tells Becca that she's watched the tape with her boyfriend, and as they start a pillow fight, they also hit each other with random objects. Then suddenly, the house's landline rings. The two go downstairs to answer it, and as it turns out, it's just Becca's mom calling to check in on them. Katie goes back upstairs, and when Becca follows, she sees her friend in the bedroom sitting on a chair. Then, when she turns Katie around, she sees that she's dead with a terrified look on her face, and her head is decapitated. When Becca tries to check it further, the television suddenly turns on, showing the cursed tape, and Becca screams. Meanwhile, on a farm 20 miles west of Washington, D.C., Tom wakes up and hears a child screaming, making him hit his head when he sits up in a panic. He follows the sound and sees his brother George outside also hearing the scream. Then they follow it through the crops and find Tom's daughter, Sue. When they walk further, they see a crop circle saying "Attack here" with an arrow pointing towards their house. But the two men don't understand what it's trying to say. On a segment in morning news, Cindy, one of the news anchors, covers the story about Tom's mysterious crop circle, wondering whether it's just a prank or proof of extraterrestrial life. She asks for the opinion of her co-anchor, Ross, but he says he wasn't listening. After they finish airing, Cindy talks to her boss about wanting to continue the crop circle story. However, he wants her to stick to regular human interest stories to get the ratings up because he thinks the crop circle is simply a hoax. Back at the farm, Tom asks for George's help in fixing the tractor, but George tells him that he has a hip-hop rap battle to attend to. This sparks an argument between the two brothers, with Tom telling George that he should do something with his life. When Cindy goes to school to pick up her nephew, Cody, she greets her best friend, Brenda. She then sees Cody's drawing depicting buried people, and Brenda tells her that the assignment was to draw friends and family. Nonetheless, the two start to talk about Cindy's love life and how she hasn't found the right one yet. Suddenly, Cindy sees George walk in, picking up Sue, and they recognize each other because of the crop circle coverage. The two immediately hit it off, and George invites Cindy to his rap battle performance. On their way home, Cindy notices that Cody, who has the third eye, has one of his visions, telling her that there's a girl with black hair who wants to kill her. Then, while in the car, Cindy tells Cody that she'll start prioritizing him more instead of work. However, she forgets Cody on the streets, so she starts to go back for him. Cindy puts the car in reverse and accidentally hits him, but thankfully he's okay. The next day before Cindy leaves, she sees more disturbing drawings done by Cody, including multiple illustrations of a girl with black hair. When Cindy asks about it, Cody says that he doesn't know the girl, but she speaks to him sometimes and that she's coming that night. The two are then surprised when someone knocks on the door, but it's simply Father Muldoon, a priest Cindy called over because she couldn't find a babysitter to watch over Cody. However, the little boy immediately runs and locks himself in his room. In the rap battle venue, George tries to collect himself in the bathroom, but nervousness overtakes him, so he ends up running to one of the stalls to throw up. Unfortunately, he's unaware that it's occupied and he ends up vomiting on a guy. Before George's turn on stage, his friends Mahalik and CJ hype him up while Brenda and Cindy watch with the audience. Although George is up against a reigning champion, he ends up winning the rap battle. Unfortunately, George is thrown out because of some unintentional racist blunder he commits when he pulls his jacket hood up, making him quit rap. That same night, Brenda invites Cindy over to her house because she's scared of being alone after watching the cursed tape. She then plays a couple of pranks on Cindy, like having a fake nosebleed, a fake seizure, and a fake hand that she burns. But when Brenda goes to the living room, the TV turns on by itself, scaring her. Then, suddenly, the TV starts to leak water as the girl from the tape, Tabitha, crawls out of Brenda's screen. Tabitha starts going for Brenda, who calls Cindy for help. However, after the pranks she pulled, Cindy won't listen to her anymore, thinking that it will be another joke. Brenda and Tabitha then start to fight, but when Cindy comes over to the living room, it's already too late. Later on, Tom and George get a call about Brenda's death since Sue is one of her students. Then, while George carelessly tells Sue the news, Tom gets a visit from Sayaman. who apologizes for accidentally hitting his wife with his truck and killing her. On the day of Brenda's wake, her open casket shows how her face was caught in a state of terror when she died. George then comes to visit with Sue, but when he sees the coffin, he feels disturbed that the body is just out in the open. When Cindy reminds him that it's because it's awake, George misunderstands and thinks she's saying that Brenda is awake. George tries to wake up Brenda, and when Mahalik arrives, he backs up George in what he's trying to do by beating up everyone who tries to stop him. Meanwhile, everyone else panics as George tries to give CPR to Brenda's corpse. In the end, George gets thrown out after he attempts to use a makeshift defibrillator with broken wires to revive Brenda, making her corpse explode. George walks out, angry that people tried to stop him from bringing Brenda back from the dead, but he still asks Cindy out on a date. When Cindy returns to the wake, Brenda's mother reminds her of the alleged cursed tape that Brenda watched a week before her death, so Cindy goes up to her friend's room to see the tape for herself. Then, when she gets home that night, she watches the tape and sees a montage of a disturbing set of videos. Immediately afterwards, Cindy gets a call that tells her she's going to die in 7 days. She starts asking questions whether it's 7 business days and if the countdown includes holidays. But in the end, she's still destined to die in 7 days. That same night, George is in a car with Mahalik and CJ when he gets a call from Cindy asking for his help. Then, upon getting to her place, George finds her very distraught and talking about the cursed tape, but he doesn't believe her. However, CJ knows what she's talking about and tells her that his aunt can help. Cindy wants to leave right away, so she leaves George to watch over Cody. Unfortunately, he immediately messes up when he hits Cody in the face with a basketball, then accidentally kneeing him in the face after he tries helping him. He then picks him up and lifts him up too high, and the boy gets caught in the ceiling fan and thrown outside. Moments later, Cindy arrives at the house of CJ's aunt Shaniqua, an oracle who can predict the future. She expects Cindy's arrival and everything that happened to her afterward, such as knocking a vase over and getting hit in the head with it. The two sit down for a conversation, but Shaniqua's husband disturbs them by trying to watch a basketball game. So Shaniqua tells him who wins and he turns off the TV. Cindy then shows Shaniqua the tape so they all watch together and find a clip of a lighthouse, and Shaniqua tells her to follow the clue. When Cindy gets home, she sees Cody watching the cursed tape and blames George for not watching over him properly. Right away, the phone rings, so Cindy answers it, telling the person on the other end that Cody didn't watch the tape. However, the person on the other end knows she's lying and still says that Cody is due to die in 7 days. Desperate to save her nephew, Cindy says she'll look for answers in the lighthouse, but George thinks she's crazy and leaves. Meanwhile, Tom wakes up in the middle of the night and checks on Sue, but he immediately knows something is up when he sees her playing on the floor covered with a blanket. He can tell that it's someone else pretending to be Sue, so he pulls the blanket and sees a man who resembles Michael Jackson. The two engage in a fight until Tom manages to drop him off the window, but weirdly enough, he rips off his nose. He then goes downstairs and sees that it was just someone in a Michael Jackson suit. At the same time, George comes to check it and they see the mysterious creature running away through the cornfield, making George realize that Cindy might be right. At work, Cindy asks for a few minutes of screen time so she can warn the world about the cursed tape, but her boss won't let her. So she uses the teleprompter to type out the warning and have Ross say it out live. However, her boss sees this and pushes Cindy off the keyboard to take back her words. The two fight for control and suddenly a janitor takes over and makes Ross say inappropriate stuff. Meanwhile, at the White House, President Harris has also caught wind of the cursed tape and alien situation, but he doesn't think it's a big deal. However, his secretary, Wilson, tells him that he should address the issue and assure the people that aliens aren't real. That night, Cindy does research about lighthouses and finds the address of the one that they've seen in the video clip, so she comes over the very next day. There, she sees the inside filled with TV monitors in every nook and cranny. Cindy then meets the architect, who reveals that he's been watching her for a long time, showing clips of her in the bathroom. She asks for an explanation regarding the clips, so the architect tells her the backstory. Back then, he and his wife wanted to have a child, but they couldn't get pregnant, so they adopted Tabitha. However, she turned out to be evil, so his wife drowned her in a well, but Tabitha imprinted her evil in a videotape. Moreover, the architect accidentally released the tape after mistaking it for a copy of Pootie Tang, which he was supposed to return to a DVD rental shop. Since then, it has been circulating and killing anyone who watches it. However, the architect doesn't know its connections with the aliens, theorizing that perhaps Tabitha's summoning them to kill people. Soon enough, Ross reports sightings of aliens in various places of the world, catching them just walking around or chilling with other people. Terrified of the possible threat, Tom starts boarding up their house. Back at the White House, President Harris conducts an award ceremony so that the people won't panic about the aliens. Agent Thompson tells the president that the place is secure, but he feels otherwise, thinking that the aliens might have the capacity to take over human bodies. Agent Thompson starts to panic, thinking that there might be imposters amongst them, so President Harris suggests that they should slowly make an exit. But on their way out, a man using an electrolyrics greets him, making President Harris think he's an alien and punches the man. Everyone begins to panic, so Agent Thompson joins in the fight to provide backup for the president. Wilson tries to stop him, but he is still convinced that there are aliens everywhere around them. With all the exits blocked due to the mass hysteria, Agent Thompson makes their own exit by blasting through the wall using a shotgun. They then leave to find Cindy, knowing that she's the one who saw all of it coming. Cindy, on the other hand, returns to her house and doesn't find Cody anywhere. She then sees the news advising everyone to board up their homes in preparation for an alien invasion and hears that they're broadcasting the cursed tape on TV all night. After that, she finds a drawing on Cody's bed that shows he's hiding with George. She goes to the farm immediately, reuniting with Cody, and they all hide in the cellar together. Then, they hear footsteps coming down to their area, scaring George. After that, they use a railroad tie to jam the doorknob, noticing the shadows moving underneath the door crack. So Cindy uses a knife and sees two aliens outside their door. Suddenly, a pair of hands from the cellar's chute grabs Cody, so George takes a bat and swings at the threat, accidentally hitting Cody multiple times in the process too. As it turns out, it's just Mahalik coming to help them. Mahalik, Tom, and George go upstairs while Cindy and the children stay in the cellar because it's the safest place in the house, believing that aliens can't open doors. Outside, two aliens creep up behind them, but the president accidentally runs them over. However, more aliens arrive through UFOs. But all hope is not lost because backup arrives for George too. CJ comes with his men, saying they have George's back. Although they're supposed to help against the aliens, CJ's men turn on each other after someone steps on the other guy's shoe and they end up shooting each other instead. The aliens ambush them, putting everyone in a chokehold, but Mahalik escapes one of the aliens' clutches and decapitates him with a shovel. But the aliens meant no harm, apparently coming to Earth to look for Tabitha because they accidentally watched the curse tape as well, mistaking it for Pootie Tang. So they plan to destroy Tabitha before 7 days or else their entire race dies. As it turns out, putting people in chokeholds is how they say hello, and when George asks how they say goodbye, one of them demonstrates it by kicking him in the groin. In the cellar, Cindy realizes that Tom's farmhouse used to be where Tabitha and her parents lived before. She knocks over a glass of marbles and notices how the small balls roll towards a particular area. She then uncovers a hidden spot where the well is, and after finding it, Tabitha appears behind her. Tabitha starts to hit Cindy, but the lights suddenly flicker. Tabitha then takes a chainsaw, but after waving it above her head, she accidentally saws off a piece of wood and hits herself. Unfortunately, before Cindy's able to hit Tabitha back, she takes Cody hostage. On the other hand, George comes down, about to help, but Cindy stops him before he can swing the axe. After that, Cindy starts talking to Tabitha, sympathizing with what happened to her. George and Cindy tell her that they could be a family, so Tabitha turns back to her usual appearance, with the power of love setting her free. But as it turns out, Tabitha's just kidding and takes out a knife to attack them. Then suddenly, President Harris opens the door to wish them good luck, accidentally pushing Tabitha down the well. With their problem taken care of, George seals off the well for good. Moments later, one of the aliens comes over to thank them for saving their species and kicks George goodbye. In the end, Cindy and George get married, with Mahalik carrying Brenda's corpse to watch. Then, when Cindy throws the bouquet over her shoulder, President Harris is the one to get it. Unfortunately, Cindy and George forget Cody as they leave, so they drive in reverse to get him, thankfully hitting the brakes before he could get hit. But another car speeds by and hits the boy.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.